go-ahead run for the Sox. And Rafaela in the box against Green. Runner goes immediately. Got a great jump. Not even a throw down there to second base. And an easy theft. And into scoring position.
Oh, Green with a big leg kick. I mean, no chance. That's why Kirk didn't even bother. You see the jump, but Green, no slide step, no nothing. It's almost like he just gave it to him, just accepted the fact he was going to take it.
2-0. Swinging a liner. That gets through. That skips into left. Here comes the run. Hamilton will score, and the Red Sox grab the lead 4-3. Rafaela smoked it. It ate up Kiner Falefa, and the Red Sox using that speed game.
Kids again. How about it? Hamilton leaves the game. He takes an easy bag. This is what you get for not even caring about the guy stealing second, getting in scoring position. You hang the slider, and Rafaela with his third hit of the night. I mean, it's just every night. It's multiple hits from him now.
Another night, another win for the Red Sox, the surging Boston Red Sox. Now that basketball season is over, here they come. 617-779-0985 is your number here on the Baseball Hour. We are with you until 7 o'clock. We are with you every night for the rest of this summer from 6 to 7. They better hang in there. And I have said to you that the big picture stuff with the Red Sox, the more pertinent topic, unless or until something changes, something has changed. In the last week, they've played well. They're getting contributions from all over the lineup. Look at that winning rally last night in Toronto in the event that you did not see it. I'm going to spell it out for you. Red Sox were down 3-2 going into the eighth inning against the Toronto Blue Jays, north of the border. And Tyler O'Neill hits a home run at the beginning of the inning to make the game 3-3. O'Neill now has, I think, what is that? Does he have 4 home runs in his last 3 games? 3 home runs in his last 2, whatever it is. So O'Neill homers to tie the game at 3. And then 2 outs, bases empty, Dominic Smith at the plate. Smith singles into center field, gets on base. Alex Cora, what's the word I was looking for? Inserts into the lineup David Hamilton as a pinch runner. Hamilton swipes second. We just played this for you, but I'm going to spell it out for you. David Hamilton steals second base, his 19th steal of the season. I think he's only been caught once. Jimmy Stewart, is that right? Is he 19 out of 20 in stolen bases? David Hamilton? Then Ceddanne Rafaela comes up to the plate with 2 outs still. Gets a single. Red Sox win the game 4-3. So here's the question. Red Sox now with a win tonight can go to 5 games over for just the second time this year, matching a season high. And that final sequence in the game last night, and it wasn't the very final sequence in the game last night, but that rally, 2 outs, bases empty. A single by a guy you picked up on waivers basically for nothing. A stolen base from a pinch runner. Where have you seen that before? And then a single by the number 9 hitter, Ceddanne Rafaela, who all of a sudden nobody can get out. Red Sox manufacture a run to win the game 4-3. Does that kind of rally, does that do it for you, Jimmy Stewart? Do you like seeing that kind of rally?
It's exciting to watch, and what they've done in their last handful of games is amazing. But I still look ahead and at what are they doing for the entire season. I'm concerned about the July trade deadline and if they're actually going to believe in this team or if they're going to sell off pieces on this team. This is why I'm excited that they're doing well, but I need to see them add to actually believe in themselves so that I can then believe in them doing something in the postseason or getting to the postseason.
Okay, so again, there's sort of a chain reaction there that takes place, and I happen to agree with you. We'll open up the phone lines right away. 617-779-0985 is your number here on the Baseball Hour. We'll take your calls up until 7 o'clock, and we do have a lot to get to. Most importantly, we're going to start with the play of the team at the moment, because I do think this relates to the bigger picture topic on the Red Sox. The team is playing well. The team is playing well. They went 4-2 last week at home against the Phillies and the Yankees. They also won the finale of a road trip against the White Sox right before that. They rallied to win that game. Now they've taken the first 2 against Toronto. So the Red Sox are 7-2 in their last 9. They're now 2 out of a wild card spot. They're playing what I would argue is their best baseball of the year. And they're doing it in multiple ways. They continue to get pretty good starting pitching. They are running the bases like crazy. They had 9 steals a few nights ago, then 4 home runs the next night. Last night, they were able to manufacture a run with the game on the line, and then Kenley Jansen came in and closed up the barn, and that was the end of it. And I want to get to Kenley Jansen here in a minute. But this gets into, like, I've had people call and say they can't get interested in the Red Sox because there were no stars. Yet in the same breath, Jimmy Stewart, you would agree that rally last night was a pretty fun thing to watch. Would you not?
It was fun to watch, but
okay, so that's a different thing. I'm just talking about the rally.
Yeah, the rally's fun to watch.
Okay, the rally was good, but no star players. And I've had lots of people call this show and say, I can't get into the Red Sox because they don't have star players. And I will tell you again, that isn't the reason that you're not watching. You think it is. It's not. Why would I watch? They don't have anybody worth watching. Not true. There are some guys on this team that are worth watching. When Ceddanne Rafaela is hot, like he's hot right now, he's a fun player to watch. When Jarren Duran sprays the ball all over the ballpark and runs the bases, he's a fun player to watch. I would submit that David Hamilton's speed makes him entertaining. He is fun to watch. Tyler O'Neill's hitting the ball out of the ballpark. If you like home runs, Tyler O'Neill right now is fun to watch. Rafael Devers is one of the better hitters in the game. The reason you're not watching has nothing to do with those particular guys. The reason you're not watching is that you don't believe. That's what it is. I'll go back to the music bed for the show this year. The name of the song is Make Me a Believer. That was the whole idea. The whole challenge of this season for the Red Sox is to make you a believer. That's the challenge. It's easier to do when they sell you big names because you believe in the big names. But the big names in and of themselves are not the reason you watch. The reason you watch is to see the winning and have a chance at a championship. The big names are more likely to deliver it. But if this team goes on a 15-game winning streak, you will watch. You might start to change your opinion. I'm not telling you that they're going to go on a winning streak.
Because they're not.
I'm just telling you what you really care about. You care about the winning. And you don't believe that this team can sustain the winning. And I happen to agree with you. So I would believe in them more if they had some proven players, star players, with some history of winning, some resume that I could look at and go, that guy has done it. I can sink my teeth into that. But that lineup last night or that rally last night, that's just good baseball. Single to center by a guy you picked up for nothing. A stolen base from a pinch runner who was a throw-in in the deal that sent Hunter Renfroe to the Brewers. And then a prospect who was hitting 200 about 2 weeks ago is now up around 250. Ceddanne Rafaela. And I don't have his exact batting average in front of me.
It's 251 right now.
Okay, so I know batting average is an archaic stat. But for those of you, like the part I don't understand about a lot of these people who like the Red Sox youth movement is that many of them seem to be analytics geeks, which I get. I'm sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Stereotyping now Milliken. So on the one hand, they want to tell me that batting average doesn't matter. And then at the same time, they want to tell me that Ceddanne Rafaela is starting to hit. So which one is it?
On June 11th, Rafaela was hitting 210.
I think even before that, Jimmy, he was hitting at one point he was at 202 within the last 10 days or 2
That would be
weeks.
June 5th, he was at 202.
Yeah, within the last a couple of weeks. So he's raised his batting average now to a much more
respectable number.
Absolutely. So, and look, this is a good development.
But his expected batting average is like 357, I think.
So, and this is another thing that for the long-term health of the Red Sox, the development of Raphael is a good thing. All I'm telling you is this. The last week and a half has been entertaining. And yet, here's what I can't get past. Red Sox ownership and upper management. Are they as surprised as some of you may be in the last week to 10 days that the Red Sox are playing like they are, that they're competing and now winning? And it might only be a short-term thing. As we know, baseball is a big-picture sport. You are measured by how you do over the course of a full season. The analytics are always based on a full season. And what I am now interested in is what I would call this little tug of war that I think is going on. And maybe it's a big tug of war.
I think it's bigger than we think it is, Tony.
That I think is going on between uniformed personnel, including the manager and the coaching staff, and the people in the front office and ownership. So the Red Sox made a choice this year to approach the season a certain way. Rafael Devers complained about it in spring training. Alex Cora has said this year, too, the roster is what it is. And of late, Cora has been singing the praises of his players. He continues to say, we're going to fight, we're going to show up and play, we're going to do what we can do every single night. And now I'm starting to wonder if ownership is getting a little, I say ownership, but ownership and upper management is starting to tap their foot nervously about the whole thing. There was something that happened at the end of this game last night that I think it's noteworthy, and there's been a little bit of a pattern of it lately, that I think may not be a coincidence and relates directly to the Red Sox performance and their success. And frankly, I think the team is coming to a very interesting crossroads in the next, call it 6 weeks. And I, like many, am very eager to see how the Red Sox approach it. 617-779-0985. We'll take your calls. We'll tell you what that crossroads is when we come back on the Baseball Hour.
This is the Baseball Hour with Tony Maz.
down, ninth inning. Trying to end the game right here with a 3-2 pitch. Here it is. And in there for strike three. He froze him, and the Red Sox win it. 4-3. They beat Toronto again and rip off 4 in a row.
Keep finding different ways to win ball games. Right, this one was a battle from the beginning. Tanner Houck, he got burned by a couple of bloop hits, directional hits. Bullpen was fantastic. I tell you, Cedar Rafaela, Tyler O'Neill, Devers with a couple big hits. That's a really good grinded-out type win here for the Red Sox.
So I agree with Lou Merloni. And I should add, by the way, the Toronto Blue Jays have been one of the most disappointing teams in baseball. There's been something wrong with that Toronto team for a long time. They have all that talent. Guerrero, Bichette. For years, Biggio was getting a lot of attention there.
Yeah,
too.
didn't they just release Biggio?
I think they traded him, Jimmy. He got traded to, I can't remember, the Dodgers, maybe? He's like a bench player now somewhere else, but he never really panned out. Biggio didn't. They brought in George Springer. I mean, they're stacked. The Blue Jays are stacked. They were always a little too right-handed, but they were stacked, and they never win. They never win. Now they're talking about ripping it apart up there. They got to do something. So, and I mentioned that because the Blue Jays are no great shakes. It's not like the Phillies and the Yankees, whom the Red Sox played last week and have the best record in baseball. The Blue Jays are flawed. There's an intangible or something missing with that team. There has been for years. So they've been the same thing over and over again. But the Red Sox, they're sort of separate discussions. The Red Sox continue to find ways to win, whether it's against the Blue Jays or the Yankees or the Phillies. It doesn't really matter. The Red Sox get some of the credit in this, is what I'm getting to. And what happened at the end of that game last night was Kenley Jansen. Kenley Jansen in his last, 5, 6, 7 outings, somewhere in there, to me has looked as good as he has looked ever in a Red Sox uniform. Excellent. The ball is live, and it's not just a radar gun reading. He's getting great action on the ball at the end of his pitches. He's hitting spots. He isn't walking guys as much. Jansen's in a zone. I mentioned this last night, and it's worth bringing up now because this is the crossroads the Red Sox are at. The Red Sox wanted to trade Kenley Jansen before the season began. They failed. They then were in a report by Bob Nightingale of USA Today, who's covered the game for a long time, and Nightingale reported, I think it was on Twitter, it might have been in a column he wrote as well, but regardless, the tweet was out there that the Red Sox will trade Kenley Jansen before the trade deadline. And people have put 2 and 2 together and said, well, they're going to get, Jimmy, now I'm drawing a blank on the reliever, Liam Hendricks. They're going to get Liam Hendricks back, and that'll come at about the same time the trade deadline is. So they'll put Hendricks in as closer, and they'll trade Kenley Jansen. So this is the problem. How do you trade away a guy right now who is performing as well as he ever has in your uniform? You're in the playoff race, and you're going to trade him for a guy who's coming off of the injured list after undergoing Tommy John surgery? How does that jibe with winning? Why wouldn't you keep them both? Why would you do that? So you know what? Let's see. And if the Red Sox give you the argument, well, we didn't need 2 closers, so we're going to trade Jansen, get something for him, and close with Hendricks. Don't buy it. It's bullcrap. And again, you can think whatever you want. But if you ask me, bullcrap. If you don't need 2 closers, then why 15 years ago did you go out and get Eric Gagne to put next to Jonathan Papelbon as the setup man? And you had plenty of bullpen help that year. You were fine. You had Hideki Okajima. He was setting up Papelbon. Your bullpen was terrific. Why did you reinforce it? Because you understood the importance of having a deep bullpen. That's why.
By the way, Maz, on Jansen, his last 12 games, he's got 8 saves. He's got a 2.13 ERA and a 1.91 batting average against. He's been dominant. And the reason why? He's fresh. Remember, he wasn't pitching well. He was kind of lethargic early on. Now that he's actually like ramping up and actually in baseball playing shape, and yes, I can talk about it because you're an athlete and you're supposed to be athletic and be able to play the sport at a high level because that's what you're getting paid for. Now that he's doing that, he's executing and he looks so much better.
Well, and Jimmy, the other thing is I even boil it down to the last 7. He's 1-0 with 5 saves. He's got 9 strikeouts and 1 walk in his last 7 2/3. And again, I just go by my eyes. Watch him. He looks excellent.
And he looks interested too.
Right. So this is another issue, which I'm going to get to in a minute. What's his incentive? What's his motivation? Is this a coincidence that all of a sudden Kenley Jansen, veteran player, is pitching well? Or does he want out of Dodge because he doesn't believe in ownership and management either?
He wants out.
He wants to go to a team that he thinks can win the World Series, and he wants to play in meaningful games. Boy, isn't that great? Now you've got guys on your roster who are motivated by getting out, like Chris Sale did during the offseason. He was happy to get out of Dodge. George and Weymouth. George, what do you got?
Hey, how's it going? My thing is, so when it comes to Kenley, yeah, he's playing great, but I want to see how many innings he's actually pitched in the last 7 that he's done, because I think the reason he's so fresh and good is because he's only pitching 1 or 2 innings a week. So, I mean, moving him might not be a bad thing, honestly, when it comes to things like that, because I want a reliever that we can get more production out of.
George, he's a closer. He's a closer. You bring him in when you have the lead to close games out. So you say 1 or 2 outings a week. Within the last week, was it a week ago, he pitched 2 innings and asked to come in a game, struck out 5? So what, look, if you want to tell me they're using him strategically because they want to make sure they keep him healthy so they can trade him, fine. But what? So what, now a guy pitches well and you want to dump him because he doesn't pitch enough and he's a closer? What is wrong with you people? Do you want to win or not? So a guy actually starts to pitch well. The team starts to win, and you want him to show that he can pitch more so you can trade him? So you're just like ownership and management then. You don't give a rat's ass about the winning. I don't get that. To me, it's a good thing if they play well and they win. I think on some level, Alex Cora and the people in uniform want to put ownership and management in a tough spot. You know what? We're going to win in spite of you. And then at the deadline, if you want to trade our closer, you got to explain it to the fan base. You do. Brian in Marlboro. Go ahead, Brian.
Tony, big fan. My question about ownership is, first off, is Alex Cora signed beyond this year?
No.
Why not?
I don't think he wants to be signed, Brian. And forgive me, it's been a big story. I think he wants out. I don't think he wants to come back. I don't think he's interested in signing an extension.
That's a shame because I just don't see, I look at our lineup and we have 4 holes every night. And he's had to patch this together through the injuries, through everything. And we're winning. I just don't see who's better.
So, Brian, look, here's a mistake that many fans make, and we all make it. So the bottom line is that in baseball, as much or more than any other sport, talent is what wins. Now, the talent has to be healthy. The talent has to be motivated. The talent has to be focused. Some of those things are repetitive, but you get the idea. You don't just show up and throw your gloves on the field and win the games. You got to play, too. And you've got to play with focus and effort. If you play to your ability and you have talent, you will win. Baseball usually works that way. Where you lose in baseball is when you have talent and it's fat and happy and paid and unmotivated, and then you look ordinary or worse, and then you lose. But if the talent is healthy and focused and motivated, you usually win. The matchups in baseball are one-on-one. You can't get double-teamed in baseball. You used to be able to shift and do things like that, but they've taken that out now too. So the whole thing is about the talent. Here's what I'm getting at. Cora wasn't the reason you lost last year, and he might be partly the reason you're winning this year. And he was part last year, too, that you lost. But if he was, it was because his attitude was poor. He was frustrated that he didn't have the players, and he let it show. So the Red Sox went 78 and 84 the last 2 years, and I think Cora's attitude sucked, frankly. I think that the team bitched at the deadline about not getting help because they knew that Cora was unhappy. Cora was frustrated. They all were. But let's say that they actually had good attitudes. Was 78 and 84 all of a sudden going to turn into 94 and 68? No. You might have picked up a handful more wins here and there. And Tom Werner wanted to tell you that the reason the Red Sox struggled last year was because of poor instruction, quote unquote, and the defense with better instruction will play better defense. So they changed the coaching staff. Better instruction. The defense still blows. The defense still sucks. It's not good. It's inconsistent. They've had lapses recently defensively too. But now they're competing a little more, and they have some guys producing. Tyler O'Neill is produced. David Hamilton is produced. Ceddanne Rafaela of late has produced. And by the way, let's not go too far with it, because again, it's a big sample, big picture sport. All the difference in the season has come in the last 7 to 10 days. They've gone on a little winning streak, so now they're 4 games over 500. Well, in the last 7 games, they're 5-2. And it's actually what now? 7-2 in the last 9. So they're 5 over in the last 9, which means prior to that, they were 1 under. You get the math. So I don't want to go too far with this hot streak. I don't know how good they really are. But I'll tell you what I am rooting for. And I'm a little all over the map here. I am rooting for them to play well. I want them to stay in this thing. And I want the ownership and management that tried to pawn this off on the coaching staff and the manager at the beginning of the year to then have to look up and have a playoff team on July 31st when the trading deadline comes. And then I want to see what they do. I think that's what you should be rooting for. Frankly, I think it's what we all should be rooting for, because the reason why the Red Sox television ratings and interest in the team has been low this year is not because they lack star players. It's because you don't believe in them anymore. That's what it is. You don't believe. And you know what? You don't believe because they don't believe. So they wanted to pawn off on you some inferior product and lie to you about instruction when the reality is we all know talent wins. We all know it. So you know what? Fine. Tell you what, let's buy into the nonsense they're selling. Buy in. What if they play well and are in it on July 31st? They'll then have to show their true colors. Because I still think they're going to trade Jansen. It wouldn't surprise me if they trade Tyler O'Neill, which means, independent of what they say, that they expected this team to lose or not be good enough, and they expected to sell at the deadline. So, to me, the best thing that could happen, let's have the uniform personnel put them in that position, and then let's see what happens and how they explain it. Kevin Majori's got your headlines. Don't go anywhere.
Sports Hub headlines.
This from the Ottawa Citizen earlier today.
And again, they have analytics on all this stuff now, but you play him against bad or mediocre pitching and he pounds away. He faces someone good in a big spot and they get him out. Because at the end of the day, he's a numbers guy who can produce over the course of 162 against bad teams and bad players, but you put him against good competition in a playoff game and he's really not that good, which is what analytics are built on. I mean, that's the whole thing. But even so, he's producing for the Red Sox. They're going to deal him too. So this little run that they're on, what happens when they get to the deadline if they're in it? They're only 2 out right now. 2 out of a wild card spot. And if you get in, take your chances. See what happens. I'm not telling you I think this is a championship caliber team because I don't. But you know what? I do believe in play it out. I always say that. Play it out. You never know what's going to happen. Play it out. Someone else might have an injury. I'm not telling you the odds are good. Just play. Unless you get to the spot where you're in it and then ownership and management sells off your best players. Because they never had any intention of winning this year anyway, even though they sold you tickets and increased prices. So again, I would love to see how this deadline goes. I crave it. I want the Red Sox to stay in this race to the point where ownership and management has got to make a call. Add or not. Like if they suck and they're out of it, well, that's easy. They're going to sell off the pieces. Like I think we have now crossed that line where we can be fairly confident they are willing to do that. What if they surprise us? Are they going to sell the pieces then? Then what are they going to do? I would love to see how that plays out. Tom and Natick, what do you got?
Tony, you're spot on tonight. I'm a season ticket holder, and I think they would really disappoint the season ticket holders this year if they continue to play well and they have a shot at that third wild card spot. I thought Sunday night's game was one of the most entertaining games I've ever seen. I've never seen the Red Sox steal so many bases. They made the Yankees look old and slow Saturday night and Sunday night. So I think they can do some damage. They're not going to win the World Series, but they can get a lot of people believing again if they get into the playoffs. And so I'm with you.
Tom,
I hope they continue to do well.
Tom, before you go, how long have you been a season ticket holder?
2 years.
Okay, only 2 years. And what made you get in?
What made me get in was the change in the rules, and I was desirous of seeing, I thought I was getting in low and the team was going to improve. I was really disappointed that they didn't do anything over the off season.
Okay,
I was surprised about that.
Okay, last question. If they can, how long are you going to stay if they don't get better?
I will stay as long as I think they're improving, and I think this team is. I'm old enough to remember the '67 Red Sox. They didn't have a lot of stars, but boy, were they exciting, particularly the last half of the season. So I really enjoyed the kids. Duran, that outfield, when they get on base, it's fireworks. It's really incredible. It's a really entertaining game.
Okay, so Tom, thank you for the call. And the reason I asked you that, and don't take this the wrong way, but I was hoping that you weren't a fan as far back as '67. And the reason I say that is because I think people like you love the sport. And you love the Red Sox for what they were years ago and not for what they are now. And that's okay. I'm not blaming you for it. I'd be more impressed if someone bought in who was younger and said, I was going to buy low. I'm going to get in at the ground floor. I'm going to see them build something, and I'm sticking around for a while because I think they're going to be good. I think the game's going to come back. And you might be that, but you're also someone who loves the game. It would have meant a little bit more to me if you were younger, and I'm not blaming you for that. I'm just expressing how I feel about it. Eddie in Revere. Eddie, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tony. I'm old, too, so I started following '74, but I agree with pretty much everything you said as far as let's put this on ownership and see what they do. And unfortunately, when I hear an owner who refers to the team as an asset, and let's not forget, they didn't just blame bad instruction. They also dumped Bloom, which, yeah, he probably had it coming, but was he as bad as to lose his job? I don't know. Seeing what Breslow does now, I don't see much of a difference. And I'm curious what you think of Breslow compared to Bloom.
Okay, I think that Breslow to me has operated with a little more urgency, Eddie, but I might be full of it. I have no idea. I haven't spent enough time on either one. The one I would tell you, though, is that I do think Breslow, as a former player, has a better grasp on what players are going through. Now, that said, some of Bloom's guys have come around. David Hamilton was acquired by Bloom. He held on to Durant. He held on to Rafaela. Like, all of a sudden, these guys are starting to make contributions. He held on to Tanner Houck. Now, I think that Breslow's going to do better with the pitching. Overall, let me just tell you, I think Bloom's tenure was disastrous. I don't think Bloom operated with any level of urgency and, frankly, put guys on the field who didn't belong in the big leagues and shouldn't have been playing the positions they were playing. But I think, for example, let me just give it a guy like Dominic Smith. Okay, Dominic Smith is a 4A player. He's a borderline big leaguer. But he's a first baseman. Franchi Cordero was not. It wasn't either of those things. So you see the difference? The degrees of bad are different with Breslow. They're a little bit more representative of what is required at the major league level than what Breslow was doing. Breslow was just picking up anybody off the street and sticking them at first base or in right field. In the case of Breslow, he's at least putting guys at first base who are first basemen. They're not good ones, but they're at least first basemen. He's making some effort to actually get a specialized skill. Sean in Colorado. Go ahead, Sean.
Hey, Tony. This might not be the topic of conversation. I was kind of hoping to hit on Karadas. Is he coming in soon, within the next week? Because he was just at the draft combine.
Yeah, no worries, and thank you. I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the show, and I didn't, so that's my fault. Jared is typically with us every Wednesday. Many of you who are listening probably know that already. He is at the MLB Combine, working for the MLB Network out in Arizona. So he wasn't going to be here this week, and he's not going to come in on another night. A lot of travel, it can run him down. Jared is human, despite how he looks in that Greek god physique of his. So he'll be back next week, and you certainly should feel free to touch base with him next week about the combine and what have you. He's got much better grasp on the draft than I do. Before we go tonight, let me just tell you, 617-779-0985. We'll still take your calls in the final segment. I do want to offer a thought on Willie Mays, who is one of the true greats in baseball. Not something we did this afternoon, no real tie to this market. But if you're a baseball fan, the mere mention of Willie Mays should make your eyes open. Involved in one of the great plays in baseball history in the catch off of Vic Wertz back many years ago. And I just want to touch on Willie Mays because I uncovered or came across an interesting statistic today that I do think illustrates his place in the history of the game. We'll do that when we come back. Never saw him play. It was before my time. But people of my father's generation will tell me that Willie Mays was the best player they ever saw. He's generally regarded as one of the 2 or 3 best all-around players in the history of the game. Jimmy Stewart, who's the best player in your lifetime that you've seen in person?
Ken Griffey Jr.
Okay, Joe Murray. Joe Murray just walked in. I'm going to ask him the same question. Who's the best player you ever saw in person?
Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah, me too. Willie Mays, I think, was better than Ken Griffey Jr. So home run totals are comparable. Willie Mays had 660 home runs, number 3 all-time until the steroid era. He won 12 Gold Gloves, most all-time in center field. Over 300 stolen bases, more than Griffey. The only thing Willie Mays didn't do a lot of was winning, which is kind of a big hole on the resume. And his postseason numbers were not great. His OPS was almost 300 points lower in the postseason than the regular season. Not that he played a ton of games. But if I were to ask you quickly, Jimmy Stewart, 500 home runs, 300 steals. 3 players in baseball have done it. 500 homers, 300 steals. Willie Mays is obviously one of them. Who are the other 2 off the top of your head?
Is it Barry Bonds and Hank Aaron?
Barry Bonds, very good. Excellent. Who was also Willie Mays' godson, if I'm not mistaken. Bobby Bonds and Willie Mays were very close. Hank Aaron is incorrect, but good guess. Alex Rodriguez is the other guy.
Oh.
Okay. A-Rod is the other guy. Interestingly, neither Bonds nor Rodriguez is in the Hall of Fame. Okay.
Well, that's people like you and the BBWA's fault. That's not their fault.
Well,
They're just doing business as business was done.
It's not me because I voted for both of those guys.
Oh, okay.
So don't look at me. I voted for Bonds and A-Rod.
It's your brotherhood.
But it is my brotherhood. That I am guilty as charged. But, and there's no real reason to say that other than it's a stupid fact. But I think that those are 3 of the greatest players in the history of the game. And again, whether you like A-Rod or not, his career is very similar to Willie Mays. Which is to say, I think A-Rod won only 1 World Series, right? Was it just the one with the Yankees in 2009? So A-Rod has 1 World Series title, almost 700 home runs, 696 I think he finished with, and stole over 300 bases, was a Gold Glove defender, one of the great 5-tool players in the history of the sport. Did not, like Mays, did not play well in the postseason. But that doesn't mean he's not a Hall of Famer. So again, you can discriminate against the steroid era if you want. I don't know why I got on this soapbox, but A-Rod right there with Bonds, right there with Willie Mays is one of the handful of great players in the history of the sport, with or without the steroids. Joe Murray's got you for the rest of the night. Kevin Majori's got your headlines here. We'll catch you tomorrow.
From the Town Fair Tire Studios, this is the flagship station of the world champion Boston Celtics.